and welcome to the broadcast on this July 7th, 2025. Welcome back. Glad to be back with you live tonight here on July 7th, 2025. I had a whopping 1 day off. I was planning on 10 days off, got a whopping 1 day off, largely because I was alligators. You know, I was dealing with a lot of alligators. Let's just put it that way. And one of them is what I'm going to share with you tonight. If you go to Worldview Tube, I'm going to type it right. Worldview, I want you to tweet, by the way. I want you to tweet, text, email, Getter, Truth Social, whatever it is you do. Do that right now. Get as many people right now. I'm going to share something with you. I broke it on my own radio show today. But I want to share with you tonight what the IRS has just done to this organization, okay? And it's not just me, by the way. We're hearing from taxpayers across the country since I got off the air, and we're hearing from CPAs what this rogue agency is doing. And this is all happening still under the Trump administration. As one well-known Trump confidant said to me over the weekend, and if I said his name, you'd all know him. He said, I've got my own problems with the IRS, and now you've got your problems. And we're very high-profile conservatives. And he says, and this is all happening, the weaponization of the IRS still happening under the Trump administration. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, folks. I don't see much changing. I don't see much changing. I pray I'm wrong. But the American people need to at least try to change it. And I've been communicating with members of Congress. And I want to share with you tonight what just happened to our organization. It came to a head while we were on 4th of July break. And I want you to go to worldviewtube.com/IRS, read our press release, tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, Truth Social, spread it far and wide, everywhere. worldviewtube.com/IRS. Spread it far and wide, folks. Now, I broke this on radio today. But I got to bring it to my radio audience. And then I'm going to be joined by Annie Cyrus on the threat of a terrorist attack in America with suicide vest. Sarah Adams, former CIA analyst, is warning about that. We're going to talk about the Middle East, get an update on the Middle East. Apparently, there's an Islamic site that's raising money as a bounty on President Trump. Then let's talk about the MAGA meltdown. We're not even 6 months into President Trump's term. It looks like the MAGA coalition is fracturing today over Pam Bondi and the Epstein files. Okay? And then there's more to talk about with Annie. We got a lot to get to. Then I'm going to be joined by Jeff Childers. He wrote a great article about 2 data points. The number of people that are getting off of the free Obamacare. Lots of people getting off the free Obamacare. Why would you give up free healthcare? Probably because you're dead. And lots of people now not getting their Social Security payments. A drop in Social Security payments. Why would there be a drop in Social Security payments? Because they're dead. Why does it look like here in 2025, July 7th, 2025, we're seeing a spike in mortality? What does it mean? How's it tied to the Deagle report? We're going to get to that with Jeff Childers. We're going to talk with Michael Weiner about the continued de-dollarization. The BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, dumping the US dollar. And how you can maybe protect yourself from the IRS showing up and just stealing your money. Because guess what? They can do it. They can just show up, steal your money. You say, well, sue the IRS. Any good attorney will tell you that's very difficult, very expensive, and very time intensive, if you can do it at all. Federal government has a lot of immunity, folks. It's a racket. Of course they do. Very difficult to sue the feds. But the IRS is making it up, are the judges. The judges make up the law. The IRS makes up the law. They're documented cases we have. They just make it up. And maybe there's a way for you to legally, under the law, to protect some of your assets and take them off the table so the IRS doesn't just show up and steal your assets. We'll talk to Wes Peters. No, Michael Weiner. I'm like, Wes can join us tonight on that. Now, I hope by now you've tweeted, text, email, Facebook, Getter, Truth Social, told everybody to get here because we're about to tell you what we told the audience at 1 o'clock for radio. We just released this at worldviewtube.com/IRS. Look at this. IRS slaps $49,000 fine on conservative Christian broadcast organization for mailing tax payment during agency's 2-day online system outage. Now, I want to make it very clear. I'm going to repeat it many times. This was not a penalty for paying taxes late. Our organization, our broadcast network, was penalized over $49,000 by the IRS because their system was down for 2 days and we could not make the payment online. Therefore, my CPA instructed me to overnight a check to the IRS. Because I overnighted a check versus paying it online, which we couldn't do because their system was down for 2 days. Because we overnighted a check, we were fined for writing a check. We were fined over $49,000. We were not fined for late taxes. We were fined because we paid with a check. You see, if you have a payroll tax above a certain dollar amount, apparently IRS rules say you have to pay online or we're going to penalize you. But it's worse than that. They sent me 2 abatement letters. 2 letters saying, don't worry about that. And then came back 2 years later and said, oops, we changed our mind. We want the $43,000 plus now the 2 years of interest, which is now over $49,000. What? You're coming back to me 2 years later, and I have a letter that we're waiving saying you've abated this tax, rightfully so. But now 2 years later, you change your mind, you want to tack on interest? Oh, yeah, it gets even better. Then we got a second abatement letter. Yeah, let me just read the press release, folks, so I'll make it very clear. And by the way, I want to make it very clear, this is not about me. This is about the corruption of the IRS, the lawlessness, because this is happening to Americans all over the country. I just happen to have a platform to tell people. You know what's very interesting is someone said to me today, Brannon, maybe, they emailed me, Brannon, maybe God allowed this to happen to you because unlike most Americans, they don't have a platform. They can't pick up the phone and call members of Congress on their private cell phone number. You can. That's true. And believe me, we did and we have. In fact, I did receive a text message today from the chief of staff of a congressman who I sent the press release to, who said, we contacted our Financial Services Oversight Committee, folks. We'll let you know what comes of that, because I've offered to testify before Congress. And not only that, my CPA is asking to testify and asking permission of a very large agency that she works for, a very large private CPA firm, but it's very big firm. I use a big firm because I need top brass accountants. Obviously, I'm a political target and a religious target. And she has to ask permission from her bosses, but she wants to testify. She wanted to be on the show tonight. She wanted to be on radio today, but her bosses said, we gotta flesh this out with other folks at the company. But she has all kinds of stories of where the IRS is literally making up the rules. She's like, where is that in the IRS code? That's not in the IRS code. So here's the thing. My CPA knows the IRS code better than most people that work at the IRS. And my CPA has told me that so many times. We'll get in there and deal with them, and we know the code better than the IRS agents. Shocker. She will tell you the IRS is literally just making it up out of whole cloth, penalizing entrepreneurs, taxpayers, conservatives, and there's really nothing you can do about it. So someone said today, maybe God's allowed this to happen to you today, Brannon, because you have a voice and a platform. Okay, fair enough. Some said, well, one attorney said, maybe you don't want to go do this. Maybe by doing this, you're making yourself a bigger target. Yeah, I could be selfish and say, yeah, maybe I should just take my licks and be quiet. But that's not my personality. That's not my wife's expectations for me, frankly. She would not respect me if I did that. Because she likes the rebel in me. A rebel with a cause, I guess. I asked her once, why did you marry me? I've asked her this more than once. Why did you marry me? I thought it was going to be my good looks. Apparently not. My great personality? I guess that wasn't it either. Suave, sophisticated? I don't know. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but I don't think so. That's what I wanted to hear. You're just so good looking and well-rounded and funny. She actually said, there's several reasons I married you, but one of them is, number one, she said, I knew you'd be a good provider. I knew you'd be a good provider. We met when we were teenagers. She said, I knew you'd be a good provider, and I knew you'd be a strong leader. I said, yeah, but why did you argue with me in our, early in our marriage, when that first 6 to 12 months when everybody's trying to work out the new marriage? If you wanted a strong leader, why would you argue with me? That didn't mean I wanted my way. It didn't mean I wanted my way. I wanted you to be a leader, and you were. And it's funny, of course, many of you, I've been married almost 35 years now. Many of you will testify that some of you, like myself, that live in a very harmonious relationship, don't argue very much. We really don't argue very much. We do have some arguments, but not very often. But those first few months, you're trying to figure each other out in your new marriage, right? And I said, well, so if you wanted to be married to someone that would be a strong leader, why you want to argue? I don't know, just human nature, I guess, but I was always glad you were such a strong leader and didn't give in. So she wanted to marry me, she said, because I knew you'd be a provider and I knew you'd be a leader. And when I discussed this issue with my wife said, well, I hope you're not planning on just sitting on the sideline and being quiet about this. I said, no, ma'am. So my audience, you expect me not to do what maybe be in my best interest, which is to shut my mouth. You expect more from me, and frankly, my wife expects more from me. So here we go. Here's the press release we released today. Conservative Christian broadcaster and founder of Worldview 2, Brannon Howse, is calling for expedited IRS reforms under the Trump administration after the agency imposed an upheld an indefensible $49,000 fine. It was actually more than that, over $49,000, despite 2 abatements for mailing a tax payment when the IRS's online payment system was offline for 2 days. Collierville, Tennessee, that's the dateline. Brannon Howse, a prominent conservative talk show host and Christian broadcaster for more than 30 years, has clear-cut documentation along with his CPA of Internal Revenue Service lawlessness and political weaponization following a series of events involving a payroll tax payment in 2021. Yeah, it was in 2021. In 2021, his certified public, but it just came to a head last week. In 2021, during the 4th of July break, which consisted of 1 day break because we're dealing with this kind of garbage. In 2021, his certified public accountant attempted to pay the organization's payroll taxes through the IRS's automated payment system. However, the system was down for 2 days, prompting the CPA to advise Howse to send a check overnight to avoid late fees or penalties. Howse followed this advice, but months later received a letter from the IRS fining him $43,000 for not using the automated system. I want to make it clear, folks, it was not for late taxes. I had to explain this to some people today several times. They're like, how many times can I tell you? If it's not for late taxes, it's because I overnighted a check versus doing it online. But their system was down. But apparently, there's an IRS law that if you owe so much in dollars and you send a check, they're going to fine you, even though their system was down for 2 days. And we're trying to get the government their money. Here we go. Howse's CPA filed an appeal due to the IRS automated system being down. And the IRS initially abated the penalty. However, 2 years later, the IRS sent a demand letter for the original $43,000 plus interest. 2 years later, folks, when the CPA provided the original IRS abatement letter, the IRS claimed it was sent in error and reversed the abatement. So they said, sorry, we shouldn't have sent you that letter. We want the $43,000 plus interest now, 2 years later. Yep. So another appeal was filed. And in the fall of 2024, an IRS revenue officer closed the case, issuing a letter stating that nothing was owed for 2021, including no penalties or interest. So a second abatement letter, folks. Despite this, the case was inappropriately reopened in 2025 with the IRS again demanding payment of over $49,000 with accrued interest. The advanced appeal was assigned to an IRS agent based in the Midwest. and she agreed with Mr. Howse that this was a ludicrous penalty that should be abated on numerous grounds, including the fact the IRS sent two letters abating it already. Howse says the agent was extremely professional, detailed, and sympathetic as she worked over the course of nearly a month through phone calls and emails with him and his CPA to document his file and try to convince her superior that Mr. Howse should have the erroneous penalty abated for a third and final time. When the agent called Mr. Howse to inform him that she had been rebuffed, which that was during the 4th of July break, had been rebuffed by her superior, she encouraged him to continue to appeal, as she said he has a legitimate case. However, he was told he needed to pay the over $49,000 erroneous payment to the IRS in order to continue the appeal process and stop the clock from ticking and adding additional interest and penalties. Howse paid the more than $49,000 online, but only after the IRS agent spent several minutes guessing at what the online system was asking Howse for in order for him to make the payment. The IRS online payment system is so poorly built and functioning that the IRS agent herself was finding it difficult to assist Howse in making the online payment. Only with the two of them guessing at the antiquated online form was Howse successful in handing over the more than $49,000 to the IRS that was being held by Howse for future IRS payroll taxes. So now we have to try to put that money back in our account for future taxes. Howse will now be forced to make budget cuts within his broadcast organization, as well as not fill a slot that opened up with the recent departure of a television control room technician. That's right. One of our guys is moving on to use his college degree that he earned while working for us. And that individual will not be replaced. We will spread responsibilities of this network around. And there will soon be another control room technician leaving to pursue his college degree, which he earned while working here. And we hate to lose these guys, but we will not be replacing them. We were going to bring in people to replace them, but now we won't. Logan and I will just be working longer hours, more hours than we already are, because we not only have to try to make up this $50,000, but we also have to be ready for the next time the IRS comes along and wants to just steal money from us in what appears to be a targeted weaponization against a Christian and conservative broadcast network. So we now have to work doubly hard to make sure we have enough money on hand so when the thugs come knocking to steal money that's not rightfully theirs, we can pay it versus having to go bankrupt. Welcome to America. Mwah! Love it. America. Sing a song about freedom. What do you think, Dolly? Should we sing a song about how great liberty and freedom is? Guess who didn't celebrate the 4th of July this year? Me. Because guess what? We don't have liberty and freedom. And I'm not celebrating the 4th of July with any great enthusiasm until we actually have liberty and freedom again. Right? In fact, I was going to put on a big patriotic event. We were going to do a big patriotic event in 2026 for the 250th anniversary. I decided today, no, not going to happen. I'm not, going to spend the money on that. I got to save in case the IRS comes knocking to steal more money. Right, Dolly? And number two, am I really going to go out there and celebrate the 4th of July and our 250th anniversary as though somehow we're a free nation? Our founding fathers would say, what is wrong with you people? You're celebrating liberty and freedom like you somehow have the liberty and freedom we gave you 250 years ago? Are you people that stupid? You're enslaved. You are slaves. And you're celebrating like you're free people. You know why? Because you don't know what freedom is. You think you do, but you don't know what freedom is. So I'm not going to be a part of that ruse. Am I patriotic? You bet I am. Will I promote patriotism? You bet I will. But if you think I'm going to celebrate that we got a bunch of liberty and freedom, I'm not doing that. Not until I see real liberty and freedom rolling down in this nation. And we're not seeing it. And this is happening under the Trump administration. There's no excuse for it. They say he's only been in office 6 months, not even yet. Oh, that's right. We're going to give him a chance. But I'm not very happy. And I'm not counting on much changing. They can't even admit that Jeffrey Epstein apparently did anything wrong. So you really think we're going to get a reprieve from a tyrannical government in Washington, D.C.? I don't think we are going to. So I'll pick it up. And by the way, so I make the payment, and the IRS agent, nice as could be, from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, turns out. Nice as could be, professional, nice, personal. We had a great conversation a couple times. I said, hey, my broadcast network I work with is out of Milwaukee. I've been working with them for 30 years. Gave her the address. She said, hey, I was down there by that broadcast network the other day. I saw it and I wonder what that is. I said, well, I can tell you what it is. It's the broadcast network I've been working with for 30 years out of Milwaukee. They got radio and TV, TV 30. She said, there's a TV 30 in Milwaukee? I said, yeah, turn it on at 10 o'clock at night. You'll see yours truly doing the 10 o'clock news, the Worldview Report. This woman was first class. As much as it pains me to say that about an IRS employee, this woman was first class, diligent, honest, sympathetic, common sense. She did not agree with what was happening. But apparently, as she said, her supervisor won't hear it. Really? Who is that supervisor? Yeah, if we had a Congress that had any teeth, they would call me to testify and they would subpoena that superior and say, what is wrong with you? Why did you do this? The man overnights a check for payroll taxes because your system's down for 2 days during the height of COVID. Oh, and by the way, it's reported here in the Mid-South, the IRS was shredding tractor trailer loads of tax returns and checks. Oh, yeah. That's very well known by CPAs due to, in part, a IRS whistleblower here in the Mid-South. But you think Congress is going to look into that? Maybe they will, but I would doubt it. We'll see. We'll see. But the IRS agent out of Milwaukee, she was just a really nice person that was wanting to do the best. That's rare. That's rare. That's like a unicorn. But you got to give credit where credit's due. And I'm giving her credit. She was like, Mr. Howse, this is not right. And she worked to document my file and go to bat for me. And she was not pleased to have to call to tell me her superior said, nope, we want the money. She said, Mr. Howse, I hate to tell you this, but you're going to have to pay the money to keep appealing. But please, you should really keep appealing this. So the IRS agent had to help me guess at what this antiquated online form wanted. So we almost couldn't even pay the money because the form was so antiquated. It was asking for information that was not consistent with my tax return for my organization. We had to guess. We just look at it. I'm like, when she guessed it right, I'm like, how did you know that? She said, I'm just guessing. That's how stupid their system is. But anyway, after making the erroneous and twice abated payment to the IRS, Howse made his next phone call. See, that thing was abated twice. To the chief of staff of a well-known U.S. congressman and then conferenced in his CPA. The two of them briefed the chief of staff on Brannon's case, and then his CPA filled the chief of staff's ear with several more egregious cases she's handling for additional clients and taxpayers. The chief of staff was clearly shocked and conveyed interest in using this new information to work with a congressional committee for a possible hearing and investigation into the IRS's incompetence weaponization. Mr. Howse was asked if he would testify before such a committee hearing, and Howse quickly agreed to do so in order to inform the American people, Congress, and the White House of the urgent and immediate reforms needed to the IRS and America's tax system. Howse said, quote, if not now, then when? If these long overdue reforms do not happen under the second Trump term, then they will likely never happen, and America will continue to slide toward third world status, where entrepreneurs and conservatives are financially crushed by an out-of-control, bloated, and tyrannical federal government that's literally making up the rules based on the whims of incompetent and politically motivated bureaucrats, end quote. There are numerous reports from CPAs, as well as an IRS employee in the Mid-South, that the IRS allowed numerous tractor-trailer loads of taxpayer mail and tax returns to be shredded when the mail backed up due to the COVID shutdown. There must be a U.S. congressional investigation into these credible reports as it further reveals the rules for thee but not for me mentality at the IRS. Howse argues that family business owners and organizations should not have their money taken by the IRS through bogus fines and penalties, especially when the agency itself has issues such as obsolete software, archaic code, long phone wait times, and system downtimes. Howse stated, quote, the IRS should not be allowed to take money from taxpayers when the IRS has no legal basis for doing so. They should not send letters of abatement on erroneous fines and penalties and then reverse them 2 years later with thousands of dollars in additional interest. The IRS has a long history of punishing and plundering taxpayers and organizations for the failures of the IRS to function in a consistent and equal applied standard of written law. This harassment and lawlessness must stop, end quote. I'll make it very clear. This over $49,000 was not because we paid our taxes late. To the contrary, the very nice IRS lady in Milwaukee said, Mr. Howse, you're very consistent in paying your taxes on time. She wanted to make it very clear. The penalty, Mr. Howse, is not that you paid your taxes late. It's that you paid by a check. And I understand that you paid by check overnighted because the system was down for 2 days in 2021. And again, we abated it twice for 2 years and then come back asking for it. This isn't right. She said, will your accountant sign a letter? He'll know what he or she will know. Under the penalty of perjury, I certify this, that they tried to pay your taxes for 2 days online with the IRS system, but it was down. Will you have them sign such a statement? I said, yes, and they did. And she said, send it to me, and we did. And that, along with other documents, was taken to her supervisor, and she said, this should be abated. Again, for a third and final time. But no, the IRS wants $49,000 from this very medium-sized Christian and conservative organization. I guess they need to use it for what? More, I don't know, condoms to the Gaza? I don't know. To give more foreign aid to Islamic countries that hate us? I'm not happy, obviously. But again, this isn't just happening to me. My accountant told the chief of staff of this congressman, she's have a client who has a business that goes where there's water damage and has trucks to deal with water damage. And when they go south of Tennessee, that's not a problem. They're able to deduct all of their trucks and costs and expenses and hotels and everything to go do that work down there. But for some reason, when my client, based in Tennessee, goes north to Missouri, St. Louis, to do the same work, the IRS has said you can't deduct your hotel and travel and trucks and equipment. The CPA is like, where is that in the tax code? It's not. It's a bureaucrat just simply making up stuff. And what can you do about it? Nothing. Because we have a bloated, unaccountable IRS. And many congressmen like Trey Gowdy and Jim Jordan, they talk a good game, but at the end of the day, these guys are full of hot air. No wonder they're so welcome on Fox News. We're not a free country. And if things don't change quickly under the Trump administration, his administration will be, it'll be over politically when it comes to the midterms. Because Americans, between Pam Bondi and all this going on with the Epstein files and all this other garbage, and we're going to give amnesty to certain people, but not other people because it hurts the big ag and the big hospitality industry, and we're going to give certain tax-free money, no tips for people waiting tables. So certain people get benefits, other people get taken to the cleaners. I'm sorry. The American people are sick of that. And nothing's really changing under the Trump administration long term. Do I want Trump to be successful? I do. But it's not happening. Am I thankful that we got a little bit of a tax break from the BBB? I am. But that is small. That is a small thing when it comes to the weaponization of the federal government against whether judiciary or IRS. So I hope you will go, because again, I want to make it very clear. I am not the story here. I am just a voice. It's happened to me, but it is happening to thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs and conservatives and Christian organizations and conservative organizations. I just have a voice and a platform to scream and holler about it. So I hope you'll go to worldviewtube.com/IRS and read about it. worldviewtube.com/IRS. And then I hope you go to worldviewtube.com/support, because we got to put $50,000 back in our account to be ready to pay the next payroll taxes whenever those come due. Because that's what these were being set aside for. And now they just took it. So we're going to have to do a lot of business here, folks. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Get some Bella Grace, get some Gatatana, get some Numi, maybe join our vault, get access to all of our years of 35 years of radio shows, TV shows, ebooks, audiobooks, all that. worldviewtube.com/vault. Because I don't want to have to cut services. Right now, we're going to let a guy go. He's already gone. He's not going to be replaced. Another guy's leaving soon. He won't be replaced. We planned on it, but that's not happening this year. We got to put this money back in the account. So when the IRS comes knocking to steal more money that's not rightly theirs, we'll have it to pay. But that's reality. And get over this notion that America's back. Oh, we're back. Only a moron would say that. We're not back. We haven't begun to see enough changes to justify that. And we'll be here long after Donald Trump's gone. And I pray he's successful. But I would lower my expectations if I were you, or you're going to be very disappointed. But if we don't get rid of the IRS as we know it, reform it, go to a sales tax, a national consumption sales tax, so we pick up everybody, the drug dealers, the gangbangers, the strippers. If we don't do this during the Trump term, as I said in that press release, if not now, when? If we don't do that, you can forget about making America great again, because we won't be great again. Because what makes America great in part is small American businesses and organizations and churches. And yet we're being targeted. And if we don't get rid of the United Nations and kick them out of America, you can just forget this Make America Great Again. Maybe instead of concentrating so much on the Middle East, we should be concentrating more on America. So that's my commentary for tonight. Before we go to Annie Cyrus, Jeff Childers, Michael Weiner. I'm just a voice. Yes, it's happened to me, but it's happening to a lot of you that don't have a voice. And I could have said, it might be smart just to be quiet, pay the money, be quiet. All you're going to do is, that's what one attorney said to me, you're just going to upset the IRS and they're going to come after you more. Well, it'll just prove again that the IRS is being weaponized and we don't live in a free country. So, as Ronald Reagan said, make my day. It'll just be more fodder to tell the American people the truth about the fact you have a corrupt, out of control federal government. And the same garbage that was going on during Biden is still going on under Trump. In fact, in some ways, it may be worse. Because here's Leo's article. Trump's BBB just passed by Senate will massively expand the digital biometric surveillance state for years to come. So don't be shocked when we look back and we talk about President Trump the way we do George W. Bush, the guy that gave us the Patriot Act, robbed us of our civil liberties. I'm afraid, because I want Donald Trump to go down as one of the best, most successful presidents in American history. But my fear is he'll go down as George Bush 2.0. Let's pray that's not the case. But in the meantime, this is what's happening. And I'm speaking up for myself, my organization, my guys in the control room, the ones that still have their jobs. For you that appreciate this network, I'm speaking up for all the other conservative Christian organizations and entrepreneurs out there that have had this happen to them that don't have this microphone. So I'm not speaking just for me tonight. I thought we outlawed slavery in America, but we didn't. We are not a free people. We are not a free people. I don't know what we were celebrating on the 4th of July. It was a historical date. But if you were celebrating freedom and liberty, well, we have a little bit. But our founding fathers would actually be ashamed of us thinking we have liberty and freedom. They would say, as I said earlier, you guys don't know what liberty and freedom is. What's wrong with you? So let's hope that maybe things change by next 4th of July and our 250th anniversary, and we can really celebrate liberty and freedom. But don't hold your breath. I'll get into it more after this break. We'll be right back. Hello, I'm Brannon Howse. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. Joining me now to discuss the IRS, protecting your assets, getting a little bit of the target off of you, using the laws, legally protecting yourself. Joining me now is Michael Weiner of Swiss America. Again, I do not give financial opinion, or excuse me, I do not give financial advice, but I do give financial opinion. He joins me now with more of that as well. So I'm sure by now I've read the article about how the IRS has slapped us with a $49,000 fine after reversing it twice and then changing their mind 2 years later and adding on all the interest. So from $43,000 to $49,000. And I want to make sure the audience understands that is just a penalty. That's not penalty for late taxes. No, the IRS gal that was helping me and thought it was wrong, but her supervisor slapped down the reversal. She's like, you're not being fined for paying your taxes late. You're being fined because you used a check instead of online, which you shouldn't have to do, and our system was down for 2 days. So all that being said, Michael, this is a perfect example of not only why we need to abolish the IRS, or at least at the minimum go to a national consumption tax, sales tax that will hit the strippers and the gangsters and the gangbangers and the drug dealers. But also it will encourage people to save. But this is more of an example, I think, of why people better use the laws that we have while the laws are as they are to protect themselves, because the government can steal whatever they want, whenever they want, and the chances of you doing something about it are very nil. Agree or disagree?
I totally agree. The biggest problem with people is sometimes they're lulled to sleep. A lot of times right now, what we've been dealing with over the last several months is people think everything is perfect. Donald Trump is in office. He is making changes, but some things have not changed, which you are the best example of. If they had changed, why did this happen? It shouldn't have happened, and trying to reverse it is almost as bad as trying to deal with it. Mm-hmm. And you would think that this new administration would step into it. Maybe it's time to send a letter to Basant, their boss, which will probably file it. But you have to understand, it's all about tracking. When they sit back right now and punish you for not paying the way they want, for all of you people who pay your taxes, when you pay with a credit card, when you pay with a personal check, or you do a bank wire, the government keeps all of that information. If you pay with your bank account number, they now have your bank account number. If you give it with a wire transfer, they now have your bank account information. If you use a credit card, they now have your credit card information. And whenever they come after you, guess what they use? That information. When I pay my taxes, I use it with a cashier's check. I don't do anything online.
But by the way, listen. But if you pay a payroll tax above a certain amount, the IRS code is you will be fined if you pay by check or certified check. You must pay it online or you will be fined. That's what we were fined, that our organization was fined for. Over $49,000, not for late fees, for paying it with an overnight check because the automated system of the IRS was down. Now, if you do not have an organization where your payroll tax is really high, then it will affect you. But if your payroll tax that you're paying is above a certain dollar figure, and you pay it all by a check or certified check, you will receive a fine. So they're forcing us to go digital, okay? And by the way, this is a great article by Leo Holman out. Trump's BBB just passed by Senate will massively expand the digital biometric surveillance state for years to come. So they're getting us where you're going to be fined every time you don't do something digitally. They want you into a digital tyranny system. No more cash, no more certified checks, no more personal checks, corporate checks. It all needs to be done digitally. This is where they're going.
That's what we talked about a few shows back, the fact of why the banks have shut down 1,000 branches, because they want to force digital banking. They don't want you to come in the bank and do your business. They want to do it all digitally where they can control you. And it's the same thing with your finances and your stocks and your mutual funds and your bonds. Everything that they can control digitally, they control. You do not control it. I just had a client of ours from Worldview find that out today when they wanted to try to make a change in something on their account and nobody would cooperate with them. They don't want to. What are you going to do? Climb through the phone and get them? They're just going to sit back and hang up. And then what do? You start all over again, and you're just back digging a hole. That's why gold is such a wonderful investment, because you have it in your control and nobody else does. Control is a wonderful thing. And when you don't have control and you let all of your assets be on paper, your life can change in a minute, and you would not even know it happened. Not even know it happened. It's just totally changed.
Yep.
And just like with you right now, Brannon, you're being penalized for something that's absolutely idiotic. I mean, you paid it. The theory, factually speaking, you paid it. Yes, it was a little bit more difficult for them. Oh, my goodness. God, I mean, they had to actually spend some time to do a little bit of work. But at the end of the day, you are being penalized.
But their system was down for 2 days. So we were trying to get the government, the money that we owed for payroll tax in a timely manner to avoid penalties and interest. Their system was down. Nobody was answering phone calls. Our CPA tried to get them on the line. It was COVID. They were all hiding at their homes in their PJs, watching The Price is Right as an excuse instead of getting their lazy fannies to the office like the rest of us were. I worked all the way during COVID. I bet you were too. I bet you didn't work from home, Michael Weiner, did you?
You know I did.
No, of course you didn't.
I did not.
But these wimps, bureaucrats, slobs, not all of them. I got the gal in Milwaukee that was trying to help me, classy, professional, common sense. She is the exception, not the rule. The rest of this human scum used the COVID to sit at home on their rear ends and not answer the phone. They were, according to many whistleblowers, shredding tractor-trailer loads in the Mid-South of tax returns and checks, and including the CPAs will tell you this. So we couldn't get a hold of them. They couldn't take our payment. We had no choice but to overnight it. I want to again stress, the $49,000 fine was not a late fee. It was just a penalty because we did not do it digitally, even though their system was down. And again, this ought to scare the living daylights out of everybody, because what it shows you is they want to set a digital biometric tyrannical system that you will follow or you will be penalized, and some of you to the point of devastation and ruin. And in my opinion, and I don't give financial advice, I give financial opinion, people, in my opinion, you better be taking the opportunity now while you can to get into hard assets. And if you got to bury them in the backyard, leave a note for your kids where they're at. But whatever you got to do, so the crooks and the robber barons can't get their hands on it. What are your thoughts, Michael?
I totally agree. I've been living with this for years. I can see the door closing every single day. We had another person who had a bank that told them, well, you need to sign it. And then they called back and said, no, you don't need to sign it. We'll take care of it.
Sign what?
Sign a document to release money. And then they said, oh, no, you don't. We'll take care of it. Then when it came back, no, we changed our mind. Now you need to sign it. They did it in so many circles. Days went by trying to figure out what's going on. That's why we try to tell people to balance your portfolio with something that is a physical asset. You know, countries do that. All these countries trying to go digital, even China, one of their main holdings is in gold. Even when the guy in Maduro, I think it is in Venezuela, was going to skip the country, the first thing he did is to send a plane full of gold to Russia. I mean, seriously, physical assets is a anchor within your life. And if you don't have it and you're not adequately protected, you are at risk of going through the same thing. Now, thank goodness you have the capability of paying this fine if you have to.
I already did pay it. We already did pay it to stop the clock on the interest.
Correct.
And they told me we had to pay it to continue to appeal, even though we've already received 2 abatement letters. So we're communicating with Chief of Staff of Congress and the Congressman himself. We'll see where it goes. I received a text today from the Congressman's Chief of Staff saying that we have contacted our Financial Services Oversight Committee. We'll let you know what comes of that. So we'll see. I've offered to testify before Congress to tell the American people in a bigger audience as possible and members of Congress that you have people that are in the IRS that are not following the law. They're not following common sense, nor are they following the law. My CPA and many CPAs can tell you how they're dealing with agents that are literally making up the law. And they will say, well, where's that in the code? It's not in the code, but that's the way it is. And so let's hope that members of Congress, someone emailed me today and said, Brannon, this is happening to you because God chose you to have it happen to so that you can use your platform and your voice to maybe bring change for the rest of us who don't have a platform. And if that's the case, then God has chosen us for this. That's fine. But let's hope something good comes from it because I do have a platform. Most people don't. Thankfully, we had the funds. Some people wouldn't have the funds. Now, granted, we've got to replace those funds because those funds were there to pay future payroll tax. So now they've stolen our tax that was going to be saved for paying more taxes. But if they cannot access your assets, they can't steal what they can't reach. Michael?
Correct. You're absolutely right. And if you own it properly under the law, you're under the radar from that. But think about the person, Brannon, like you had the ability to pay that. What about the person that might get a $5,000 fine, a small guy who has a shoe repair, and that he doesn't have that $5,000? Within 90 days, he's going to owe $20,000. Okay, and 90 days after that, he's going to owe $40,000. And then after that, he's going to get out of business because they're going to take over his business and his bank accounts and his life or her life. It's the reason why you create a physical-based portfolio for yourself as a anchor against this type of insanity. Because if you don't and you're in paper, they can legitimately, on their own, decide, you know what, let's just make sure he can't do it. We're going to lock down his checking account. We're going to lock down this. It's absolutely insane.
Well, and I want to go back to that story you told, by the way, where somebody lost everything due to the fires in Florida last year. I mean, in California last year.
California. Yep.
But he happened to have over $200,000 in precious metals. And he drove from LA to you in Phoenix, walked in the door, handed it to you, and you guys cut him a check.
You're darn right. It was the only thing. I'll tell you a second story with that. It was the only thing that he had physical control of. He went to his bank and his driver's license and his wife's were burnt and melted in the fire. And he couldn't get a new driver's license because he didn't have a physical address initially. The idiots in California wouldn't give it to him. He goes over to the bank, which I'm not going to remember which one, but it's the largest bank in the country. Go figure that one out. And they told him finally, they gave him $1,200, which he had to give his thumbprint and fingerprint and an identification to do so, and he got it. Came to Arizona in a move. He just had it, and he brought that gold with him because he kept it in his fireproof safe. He had $12,000 in a file cabinet in his office, house office, which melted or fried or whatever. And he came in here. We gave him a check for $248,000. And he said, you didn't need my social? I said, legally, I don't need anything. Have a nice day. Go enjoy yourself. Go buy your house. Do what you're going to do. That's between you, God, and the IRS. But we had another person to tell you how good Swiss America is and why I'm with this company. Is years ago, there was a Paradise fire in Paradise, California. A fire within Paradise, California. It was a horrific fire because there was only one road leaving the city. And people actually, because idiot Newsom didn't properly plan, they couldn't get out, and the fire went across the highway and actually fried people in their cars. It was horrible. And we had a number of people, one couple in particular from Worldview, who had their safe, but they didn't make sure it was 45 minutes. It was a 30-minute safe. So all of the coins that they had melted into a ball. I'm telling you, it was really with the plastic melted in it and everything. It was absolutely unbelievable. We had a record of what they bought from Swiss America. And Craig Smith at that time said, I'm paying them everything. We paid them every dime for those coins, even though they weren't coins anymore. Company lost money to do that, but that's kind of people, when you people are shopping prices, that Swiss America is. They
By the
stood
way,
up
I
and
know
took care of
they
those
did.
people.
And I know of another example where a guy bought some silver, and after a year, I think it was, had buyer's regret. A year later, he complained,
Yep.
and Swiss America said, you know what? We'll give you back your money.
That's right. That's right.
And he shipped in the silver coins. You guys wrote him a check and made him whole. A year later, only because he had
Right.
buyer's regret.
Yeah.
Most
Probably
companies
regret it now.
most companies would say, I'm sorry, you're on audio, having explained to you, because you have to have a recorded record. You knew what you were doing. You were briefed. You agreed to it. With an audio we still have on file. Sorry. But you guys didn't do that, did you?
No, we did not. And you find out in life, less is not necessarily more. So, when you talk about pricing, our pricing has been consistent for 44 years. I really wish everybody the best of luck when you come up with these companies that throw you lowball numbers, because there's a reason. But putting that aside right now, the idea of having the stability behind you and being able to sell your product back, or know that legitimately if a problem develops, we're going to be here. In deference to other people, we don't operate in somebody else's building. We don't operate in a building we can get locked out of and be shut out of. We have our own building, our own security, our own parking lot, our own private road, our own lot in front of it, so we have a clear shot. And it's true. And we're very private. I mean, we maintain control for our clients. So when people say, what's going to happen if the worst thing happens? We're already prepared for the worst thing every single day. Every single day.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why I've been working with you guys, what now, 17, 18 years?
17, 18 wonderful years.
And how many, in closing, Michael, how many worldview folks have done business with you guys in those 17 years? How many would you guess?
Thousands. And they all become like family. We're all friends. And if something happens and they need to move on, they do. Or if they're going to retire, we talk about it. And, one of your clients and one of your members and one of our clients said it the best about 2 weeks ago. He said, I was in all kinds of stocks, very well-to-do man. I drove me crazy every day trying to follow all the insanity in my life. And there I was, 67 years old. And, what was it, Michael? He said, 15 years ago, I said, I had it. I'm done. I don't want to deal with this anymore. And he bought his gold. And meanwhile, his gold's almost quadrupled. But he didn't care about that. He said, my life is so easy now. All my friends talk about they're worried about this and the bonds. And I sit there and smile. I don't worry about a darn thing. I got my gold. It's in my safe. I can get it if I need it. And I know I can get it to you if I need to sell it. And that's a positive for everybody. It's just something of control. That's why the founders put us under the gold standard. So we controlled our life, not the government.
Amen. Now, in closing, as I said, where are we headed? What's your number for end of the year still?
Well, I'm saying 4,200. We have a major problem. It's called de-dollarization. It's totally different than devaluation. De-dollarization was when the rest of the world doesn't want our money. And that's why Trump today announced about the BRICS situation. They're having their meeting today and all week with 40-some countries. Trump said, if you do that against us, if you're one of those 40 countries, we're going to charge you an extra 10% tariff. But the U.S. dollar is sinking. China is coming after us. And we have so much currency printed. They know how much it is. We are heading towards a devaluation, which is inevitable. Trump might do 10, 15%. If it was Kamala Harris, she probably would have done 40, maybe 60%. But something's coming. And gold will go up as that happens and protect you. But we're living in times right now that Trump is getting the blame for things that is not his fault. But the de-dollarization and devaluation are the major issues impacting this country for the future, and it will impact your stock accounts no matter what they say. It's going to happen.
Indeed it will.
So 4,200 year end.
4,200. And silver, what do you think silver will be at?
It'll be somewhere between $48 and $58.
Okay, $50, that puts it back at an all-time high.
Yeah, I think it'll exceed it this time. It'll exceed it.
So people have not missed the boat at all.
Nope, they haven't missed the boat. And when I hear people tell me they're missing the boat on gold, tell me that 2028 when gold's $6,000 an ounce, and also understand the fact that if Musk, who's a brilliant mind as a entrepreneur and a technology whiz, stay the heck out of politics. But more importantly, if he does create this problem, we could land up having what happened in 1992 when Bill Clinton got in, and we can land up having one of these idiots like this jerk in New York City, which is what's really scary is people in New York are trying to say it's already happened. And if that's the case, they're going to be moving next door to you, Brannon, because Wall Street's going to be down and the water will be called Water Street in Miami. Now, who wants to live in a place where you're paying taxes, destroying your business, and all of a sudden one big communal happy family? That's no free lunch.
Look at this here, folks. Worldviewgold.com. We set it up. Great website. Click here on the top right-hand corner for more information. Fill it out. You can find out about getting numismatic. That's 1933 and older, which by federal law is private. By federal law, they do not report to the federal government that you just bought that numismatic 1933 and older. And in many cases, it not only has the spot price value, obviously, but it has a premium price to it, right, Michael?
Yes,
so in reality, they can make money two ways: spot price going up and the premium of the rarity of the coin. So because it's considered an antique, it's a collectible. Therefore, you guys, when people buy it, don't report to the federal government, oh, John Smith just bought, X dollars in gold or silver, because you can get numismatic silver coins too. The government has no clue, right?
Yeah, it's between them, God, and the IRS. Whatever they want to share is in their hands, not ours. We report to the same people that Home Depot do. That's it.
What does that mean?
That's it.
What does that mean?
Well, we're run by the Federal Trade Commission.
Okay.
That's what it means. We're not run by any other governmental agency. So it's private. And so theoretically, you could say we're regulated, but we're regulated by the same people that Payless Shoes are. Simple as that. That's what Reagan set up in 1986, and here we are. Just don't wait till the bullet hits you, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. That's all I can tell you.
So you've been forewarned, right? That
Correct.
The federal government can steal whatever they want, when they want, and by the way, it's very hard to sue the federal government. People say, well, why don't you sue the IRS? Oh, trust me, we talked to our attorney about that, and he's like, very, very hard to do. The system is rigged. We don't live in a free society. I know we just celebrate the 4th of July, but we don't live in a free country, Michael. We live in a quasi-socialist nation. Agree or disagree?
I agree. That's why when you can take advantage of this privacy and get something going, do it before the door closes. The door can close not because digitally, your ability to move money privately will be shut down.
Gone. Yeah.
Exactly.
They'll be like at the door of the Ark, banging on it to get in, but it'll be too late.
That's correct. And you are a poster child.
Indeed. Oh, yeah. All right, worldviewgold.com, worldviewgold.com, or you can text Wes and ask for the free no obligation packet, 602-558-8585, 602-558-8585. Michael, as always, thanks for being with us.
My pleasure. God bless. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And by the way, Dolly is laying right here next to me on the floor, Michael. You always ask about her. I don't think we have a shot. Do we have a shot that will pick up Dolly? I don't think we do. Do we? Oh, yeah, you can barely see her right down here. There she is. Rarely see her right there laying next to me. Yep, see if I put my foot over here. You see my foot? No, you barely do. Yep, she's right there. That's her head right there. She's sleeping. So there you go. All right. All right, we'll be right back after this break.
True beauty isn't applied. It's nourished from within. Bella Grace Elixir, a luxurious, scientifically crafted blend designed to restore radiance, vitality, and strength at a cellular level. At the heart of Bella Grace Elixir lies cat's claw, a powerful herb from the Amazon known for its ability to control inflammation and protect collagen. With Verisaw collagen peptides, it goes beyond the surface, stimulating your body's natural collagen production to reduce fine lines, improve skin elasticity, and promote real, visible change. Bella Grace Elixir doesn't stop at collagen. It includes astaxanthin, one of nature's most powerful antioxidants. 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C, astaxanthin protects your skin from harmful UV rays and environmental stress, while locking in hydration and promoting a radiant, youthful glow. Experience the power of nature with Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Discover the science behind Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Read powerful testimonials from doctors and real customers who've experienced life-changing results, and explore other wellness products from Bella Grace. Bella Grace Elixir is more than just a product. It's a solution. Visit melissahousebg.com today.
All right, joining me now is Annie Cyrus. Now, here's a little warning. I don't muzzle my folks. I let them speak. I let them speak their mind. Right? That's what we do here. For the people that want truth. I'm not part of any kind of cult. Okay? I don't follow any kind of theological cult, political cult, pop culture cult. I'm not into following people and personalities. I'm into truth. Right? So, Annie Cyrus is going to speak the truth tonight. And you may not like what she says, but you should be thankful that there's a platform like ours that lets people speak the truth. Whether you agree with what they're saying or not, they should be allowed to speak the truth, and particularly speak it from their perspective of what their life experience has shown them, and their track record has proven to be, well, accurate again and again. She joins us now. Annie, welcome back. Hope you had a great 4th of July.
Thank you for having me back. I did on Friday, but then weekend took over and all the bad news started pouring in, and it wasn't fun.
Yeah, well, let's get into some of that. Let's start first, though, with some very scary news. We wish President Trump well, right? We do. We want President Trump to succeed. And I remember the day, July 13th, that he was shot. I remember when, I don't know, someone called me, and I went rushing to the television. And by the time I got the TV on, he was still behind the podium. He was still behind the podium, down. And I remember my blood running cold thinking, the man that we were counting on to get elected and to take on the deep state and the globalists, they just eliminated him. That was my concern. That was my fear. And of course, obviously, I was thinking about his personal life, his personal spiritual condition, you know, his family watching all this. All that goes rushing through your mind. But I thought, the guy that could take on the deep state, they just took him out. And I think a lot of us felt that way. And then when I saw him stand to his feet, I thought, are you kidding me? Because I thought that was it. I thought he was down. I thought he was gone. Or potentially, you know, seriously wounded. So we want President Trump to succeed. We have talked about what has happened to him over the years. Horrific. But it seems as though the threats against him are continuing to pile up. And I don't understand if he understands the real threat of Islam. But I want to show a website you talked about on your show today here at World YouTube. Let's show the website. What is this we're looking at, Annie?
So this is a crowdfunding website put up by the Islamic regime. The URL has the .ir, which is Iran. And it is basically a website where it's showing the crowdfunding and how much it has been raised specifically for Islamic Republic of Iran and its clerics to be able to pay off the bounty, not the fatwa, the bounty that was placed on President Trump's head and his life, which is in 2-month price close to $2 million as of last night, our local time.
How much?
The bounty is close to $2 million. It's 100 billion 2 months. Translated currency, it's as of right now close to $2 million.
Okay.
But
now why do you distinguish between a bounty and a fatwa? Tell us that.
Because the fatwa is a judgment. Okay, it's a call to action. A bounty is the reward for anyone who delivers that call to action.
Okay. Okay.
Until last night, a lot of clerics, it started from Thursday afternoon or local time when the Friday prayers started. 4 different Friday prayer imams came out publicly saying a fatwa, meaning Netanyahu and Trump's blood is halal to Muslims, meaning it's allowed to kill Trump and Netanyahu. And then Friday evening our time, few more clerics, not Friday imams, but clerics from religious cities came out and doubled down saying it is obligatory to all Muslims to take out Trump and Netanyahu for disrespecting and making threats toward the supreme leader. And then last night, being Monday morning Iran time, one cleric who is in charge of Islamic Republic of Iran's Islamic marketing and branding came out and said, we will pay 100 billion tumans to anyone who takes out Trump. Netanyahu's name was removed from the bounty. So there's no reward for killing Netanyahu. You just done your obligation to Islam. However, for Trump's killing, you will receive 100 billion tumans of whatever your currency is if you do kill Trump.
You think he knows about this? I mean, surely the Secret Service knows
Yes.
about this by now, right?
Yes. I do strongly believe he also knows about this. Even if he doesn't know about it from his side, he has most certainly heard from Netanyahu, because IDF was the IDF Farsi TikTok page was the first group to put out a video of telling Iranian people this is why we attacked them, because they constantly want bloodshed. And they played the first clerics. That's actually where I got the news first. The first Friday prayer imam putting out the fatwa, I got it from IDF Farsi page. So IDF was on top of it immediately. And as you've heard, Netanyahu came to America to get a guarantee from U.S. government that if next round starts, we're going to go in military attack with them. So I'm guessing Netanyahu must have informed President Trump by now at dinner. It's like, hey, by the way, I got $2 million on your head.
By the way,
But
yeah.
if I could just add something, because on my show it was brought up by one of the audience. Every time we think the regime of Iran is broke, remember, there are plenty of other clerics, other leaders, other Muslims, and other Democrats who will gladly fund them for whatever cause they have. The fact that $2 million, close to $2 million is the bounty, but $26 million has been raised, should say a lot.
How many bounties or fatwas are on you, Annie?
I have 12 fatwas on me, and I have 6 bounties. Like 6 out of 12 are backed by cash reward.
And how many are on myself or my Worldview Weekend Foundation or organization? How many?
You have 2 fatwas on your foundation. None of them backed by bounties. One is what they call the financial jihad, meaning work towards defunding or banking. And then the second one is the deplatforming fatwa on your foundation, or the Weekend Foundation.
So could this attack by the IRS be motivated by people at high levels in the Islamic
Absolutely.
world?
Remember, I released a Substack that we talked about on your show about 2 months ago or so, that I explained how CARE is still holding on to their 501c3, even though it's has committed plenty crimes. And the good chance is there are either Muslim workers at IRS high levels or Islam appeasers who are working with CARE. Now, considering most of the deplatforming and defunding fatwas come through CARE, remember when their headquarters in 2018 put out a fatwa saying any Cyrus needs to be silenced at all costs, deplatformed. They put these kind of fatwas out. So connecting that, not the stretching, connecting the CARE connection to IRS, CARE not liking you at all, it could very well be IRS is pulling this through a fatwa.
Yep. And the thing is, Annie, as I said on radio today, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes we never talk about because it would get to be repetitive and it would end up just be a woe is me type of situation. But you and I both, along with a few others, Robert Spencer and others, we just have constant things we could tell the audience, largely of which we only share a very, very small percentage with. Can you verify that to the audience?
I can say that me and Brannon Howse and Dr. Bill Warner and Robert Spencer, we can probably be on air 8 hours a day reporting on how they got us, how they're trying to get us, what's the newest that they're targeting us with, and it's still run out of time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So let's talk about the fact that President Trump, I don't know, does he not realize this because he still wants his Abraham Accords. He wants to put people on commissions or lets people underneath him put people on commissions that are tied, according to numerous reports, back to having spent years in prison for working with jihadi groups, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It seems as though, as we said before the 4th of July break, there's a schizophrenia in our national policy and our international policy when it comes to Islam. Is he going to, and his advisors, see this for what it is or try to say, oh, well, that's the radicals?
I am so glad you asked me that question because I've been asked that question probably plenty of time last week. I strongly believe, and I've said before, that President Trump completely understands the dangers of Islam. What President Trump and his administration don't understand is the commitment of Muslims to Islam. That's where the disconnect comes from. President Trump or many people outside of Middle East cannot comprehend that one individual would go as far as it's required to obey and buy a little spot in heaven for themselves, because you don't see that with Christians. You don't see that with Jews. You don't see that with Baha'is. So comprehension of when Khamenei comes out and says, kill Trump, he means that, and every single little soldier of him is gonna take it literal. His reaction, remember his reaction to Khamenei being mean to him and not saying thank you? That's when I realized he really does not understand the commitment of these Muslims. He doesn't. And until he does, until he separates Muslims from rest of the people, he will continue running into the same problem where he keeps trying to get peace with them. And in return, they keep, putting bounties on him and fatwas on him and disrespecting him and possibly killing more innocent Americans.
Let's talk about things not changing, because it doesn't seem like things are changing when it comes to Islam. Epic, I think, is going to continue to go and grow in Texas. Islam is going to continue to take over in Texas. They're going and growing all over the country. You're going to end up with basically an Islamic mayor of New York City, it looks like. So nothing's changing when it comes to Islam. Leo Holman, who I wanted to have on tonight, but I don't think it's going to work out now tonight, but maybe tomorrow night, has a brand new article out. Trump's BBB, just passed by Senate, will massively expand the digital biometric surveillance state for years to come. We're not seeing anything change when it comes to the FBI, really. We're not seeing anything change when it comes to the IRS. I mean, one close advisor and friend of Donald Trump said to me over the weekend, I have my own story, Brannon, with the IRS and what they're doing to me. And he's a close confidant of Trump. And he said, this tells us that even under the Trump administration, the IRS is still being weaponized. And this is a close Trump confidant. If I said his name right, I'd know it. So no change in Islam, no change with IRS, no change with digital tracking and digital biometric surveillance. No change with the United Nations. It's still here. No plans to do anything with the United Nations, which is in deep with the globalists, obviously, and the Islamists and the Marxists. And now today, MAGA is finally waking up. I mean, I guess we were saying some things. Look, we were trying to be balanced, praising the Trump administration where they deserve to be praised and raising questions where we deserve to raise questions. And we were getting cannibalized by the MAGA crowd, some of them, not all of them, for daring to raise legitimate questions. Well, now apparently the MAGA starlets on social media. Now we've been given permission to say something's not right, something's not working here. Part of that, I guess we didn't have permission from these people, many of them who've never written a book, never produced a documentary, don't have my 35-year track record of books and documentaries and hosting events in 300 cities. Most of these people, we don't know who they are, where they came from. But all of a sudden, they've given the MAGA world permission to question the Trump administration when it comes to Pam Bondi. So thankfully, the kings and queens of the MAGA world on social media have given us permission now. So now that they have seen the light, that it looks like nothing's really going to change. You want to speak to the little Pam Bondi issue? Because I got Robbie Starbuck here. I'm not putting him in that category, but he's the first tweet I found. Pam Bondi said the Epstein client list was on her desk to review for release to the public just a few months ago. Now the DOJ she leads claims that there is no Epstein list. Sorry, but this is unacceptable. Was she lying then or is she lying now? We deserve answers. You go on down the page and then we find that Glenn Beck, Liz Wheeler calls for Trump to fire AG Pam Bondi over her handling of the Epstein case. Quote, if I'm President Trump, I would not tolerate this behavior anymore. She has become a liability to his administration. Pam Bondi bragged to us about making the cover sheet on the binder, one that read the most transparent administration in history. To call that a severe lack of judgment would be the understatement of the year. She told us the SDNY, I guess that's Southern District, New York, was hiding other files. That there has been a deep state cover-up. She said she had not seen the SDNY documents at the time she was telling us about them. If you are sharp enough to be the AG of the United States, you verify such information. You don't assume its veracity and publicize it for clickbaits, end quote. And the list just keeps going on and on. Well, here's one. The Babylon Bee's making fun of her. The Babylon Bee confirms Ark of the Covenant sitting on her desk waiting to be reviewed. Well, MAGA is waking up. I wonder how much they're going to wake up and realize that the deep state is so deep. And poor President Trump, and I mean that, poor President Trump is surrounded by sharks, some good people, some really good people. I know some of them. And then some very, very, very not good people. And the poor guy is getting all kinds of information. But is the MAGA world starting to realize that, I hate to say it, when we look back 4 years from now, we'll have gotten some good things, but by and large, everything will go on as it has always gone on. Is that going to be reality? I'll ask Annie that question when we come back. Please don't go away. We'll be right back.
But with Brannon, it's always cutting edge stuff happening in the world. And it's not just from the political angle, because you can get that on other platforms, but it's always from the biblical angle. So you're dealing with a guy that loves Jesus, you're dealing with a guy that's very intelligent, you're dealing with a guy that is cutting edge conservatism, and you're dealing with a guy that wants to be biblical all at the same time. And so for that reason alone, I hope many, many people will not just lift up his ministry in prayer, but will also financially get behind it, because from the angle I'm trying to describe, he really is the only game in town. And we desperately need it in these last days. Can I get an amen to that?
Nature has a rhythm, a quiet strength, a way of restoring, protecting, and renewing us. Wellness isn't just about how you feel today. It's the quiet choices you make for tomorrow. At myvitamin.com/worldview, we've made daily self-care simple. Quality vitamins, daily supplements, and targeted nutrition. myvitamin.com/worldview makes it easy. Pure ingredients thoughtfully combined, tailored for your body. Formulated by a doctor who has over 25 years of medical practice experience and is a certified functional medicine provider. Visit myvitamin.com/worldview today and take the next step towards strength, balance, and resilience. Discover the wide range of med packs made for you and your loved ones. What you nurture today becomes the strength you walk in tomorrow.
And welcome back. Glad you're with us. WorldviewTube.com is the website, and it's Brannon Howse Live. And as always, we thank you for your support now more than ever by going to worldviewtube.com/sponsors and doing business with some of these great products that you know that I personally use each and every day. Of course, there go my books. You know I take Bella Grace each and every day, loaded with great products like high-end collagen peptides cut short, astaxanthin, it crosses the brain-blood barrier, helps take on free radicals, and of course, cat's claw, an anti-inflammatory. Then you know I do the Numi each and every day. That has glutathione in it to actually detox your cells. Some studies show it may remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. And the Gatatana has spiked as far as people taking this. And I want to thank all of you for doing that. A lot of you, of course, are taking it and having great success with it. And so the subscriptions to that have really spiked. And of course, why wouldn't it when you hear about what happened to the man that formulated it, right? You know the story. Here it is. Tom Harper, man figures plankton stopped his rare cancer, went on to live another 10 years. Of course, out of that, he was growing the phytoplankton for his fish, and went on to develop as a paste, as a freeze-dried powder, nothing added, all natural. That's Gatatana, and of course you can get it at MelissaHowseGPA.com. Melissa, HOWSE, MelissaHowseGPA.com. That really spiked starting in middle of February, and it's continuing every month to go up, up, up. I looked at that this morning because I'm thinking we need some of these products to do really well. We just got hammered by the IRS. And so I looked to see, and I was just really pleased to see how well MelissaHowseGPA.com is doing. So thank you to all of you for your support now more than ever. Joining me is Annie Cyrus of LiveUpToFreedom.com, LiveUpToFreedom.com, her Substack, LiveUpToFreedom.substack.com. So I was going through more of, just put into X, Pam Bondi, all the social influencers calling for her resignation. I mean, a lot of people are not happy with her. Do you think when we look back 4 years from now, we're going to realize we got some things? You know, I appreciate the fact that the border's secure, but even Tom Homan is out saying, we're not deporting nearly enough people. Even his own border czar is saying, we're not doing enough. That's a little disconcerting. But when we look back 4 years from now, are we going to be more sober-minded and realize we were thankful for President Trump, but, you know, the alligators of the deep swamp, talk about the alligator Alcatraz. He's got his own alligator Alcatraz that he's in DC, and he's up to his eyeballs in alligators. And when we look back 4 years from now, I'm afraid we're going to see that A, he didn't really get that much done, and B, they actually used his administration to do things that Kamala Harris would have never gotten away with, like financing Peter Thiel and Palantir and like Leo said, the BBB just passed the Senate, will massively expand the digital biometric surveillance state for years to come. We'll realize, oh, wow, George W. Bush gave us the Patriot Act and surveillance, and Donald Trump's administration just kept it going. Are we going to look back and have that kind of sober mind or not?
Yes, but I think so too. I think it's going to be a little more than sober mind, and I don't think it's going to be a 4 years from today. I do believe where things are at today and where they're going by midterm, the sober minds are going to be already activated. It's sad to know that it might even reflect on midterm. It's even sadder to think that, I don't know, some people might just be attracted to the new party by Elon Musk. But it won't even last 4 years, because you're right. The IRS situation is still the same. They're just as weaponized as they were. The FBI clearly has not been cleaned out. It's as corrupt as it was, maybe even worse. But in certain areas, things are getting worse, Brannon, like the jihadists we just talked about. Our foreign policy is becoming dangerous. In 2 years, we can face situations in America that might wake people up. And unfortunately, the finger is going to be pointed directly at Trump, not his advisors, not the father-in-law of Tiffany Trump, none of that. It's going to be directly at Trump. If he continues the way he's doing, first of all, I think he's trying to make too much history in a little time he has.
In other words, he's spending too much time concentrating on the Middle East, not America.
Absolutely.
So maybe he should change. Maybe he should change his slogan from "Make America Great Again" to "Make the Middle East Great Again." And then we'll all know what he's really doing here. He's just concentrating on the Middle East.
But that's the thing. In last 7 months, he has repeatedly said the following on his own Truth Social and verbally on different interviews and different speeches: "Make Syria great again." We all heard that.
He did that. Yep.
"Make Gaza great again." And
well, then he did.
Make Iran.
Yeah, he did MIGA. You and I joked about that on the TV, and like 2 days later, he put it out. We're like, maybe it should be "Make Iran Great Again." And 2 days later, he puts it out, MIGA.
Exactly.
So he's already told us. He's already told us his objective is really the Middle East. That's his big deal. That's the big oyster for world history, right?
Exactly, because he has come to realize. Okay, how do I say this? I'll just say it.
Well, let me tell you what I think you're going to say. He's come to realize that America, I hate to say it, America is largely a barrel going over the Niagara Falls. There's no turning this ship of state around. It is what it is. It's just too big. It's too compromised. The politicians are too bought and paid for by China, by Islamic groups. He got to Washington now the second time. It's even worse than he realizes the first time. And so now he's just concentrating on the Middle East because he realizes he's not going to be able to do much here. I mean, look at what he had to do to get the BBB passed, for Pete's sake.
Yes, that's almost where I was going with, that he has come to realize he has yet again, he has picked the wrong team for the local league. So he might as well try for international league.
And you and I didn't rehearse the show. You and I have not rehearsed the show. We have not traded our thoughts back and forth. We're doing this in real time. I haven't talked to you probably in a week.
I was about to say, to be fair, you didn't even text me. I got a heads up, 3 minutes heads up from the producer to jump on. I didn't even know what we were talking about. I'm like, I'm ready. Let's go.
So this is not rehearsed. In other words, she and I are just tracking with each other because we've been doing this a long time.
Yes, and again.
And many of you have been doing it a long time. They're watching, so you're probably doing the same thing.
I was about to say there, most of your audience are probably finishing our sentences while we get there. But let me put it this way, Brannon. When you say it very humbly, of course. But lately, I don't. I'm still humble, but I don't phrase things humbly anymore. Me and you've been through it. We have been a sleepless night after a sleepless night to finish yours documentaries and books, mine preparing for a speaking engagement and Substack and small ebooks. We've done it. We have literally put our hands in it. We weren't worried about how much it's going to take time or how much it's going to hurt. I'm sure you have had moments like me where you sat there with the final product. You're like, ouch, this hurts. Mm-hmm. I wish I didn't know this. So we've been through it. We don't just sit here and talk. The entire 12 days war now, we call it apparently, we were one step ahead of what was coming.
Yep.
Every night we concluded on your show saying what's next, and next day we came back to report that it was next day.
Yep. And now I'm going to play this clip. I don't know what's about to be said because I didn't watch the Des Moines, Iowa speech. But I did just see what one of my broadcast partners put out about this. So I want to see what President Trump said in Des Moines, Iowa. Let me see. Listen to this. Here we go.
Tom Homan. And we're working on legislation right now. Susie, right? We're working on legislation right now where farmers, look, they know better. They work with them for years. You had cases where, not here, but just even over the years, where people have worked for a farm.
Okay, work for a farmer.
On a farm for 14, 15 years, and they get thrown out pretty viciously, and we can't do it.
We can't do it.
Work with the farmers and people that have
hotels
and leisure properties, too. We're going to work with them.
Work with them in what?
We're going to work very strong and smart, and we're going to put you in charge. We're going to make you responsible, and I think that that's going to make a lot of people happy. Now, serious radical right people who I also happen to like a lot. They may not be quite as happy, but they'll understand, won't they? Do you think so? Madam Secretary, look at you with a white hat on. Do you think they'll understand that? You're the one that brought this whole situation up.
So it sounds like we're going to give amnesty to the illegals that are working in the restaurants, the farms and the hotels. And I saw that J.J. Carroll, one of our broadcast partners, he said this will rip MAGA in half. I will be out. Amnesty, exactly what Harris would have done. We need a third party now. Well, a third party, all you're going to do is split the votes. We all know that. But reality is it wouldn't be a third party. I hate to tell you guys this. There's already just one party, the Uniparty. And MAGA was supposed to be the second option. But yeah, if you thought that the Middle East and Israel and Iran was splitting the MAGA movement, today with Pam Bondi and this kind of stuff, I mean, he hasn't even, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. He hasn't even been in 6 months already, and the coalition is fracturing big time. I think you're right. By the time the midterm arrives, I hate to say it, and I hope I'm wrong, but I think MAGA will be over.
Yes, and I think what JJ is referring to is the Elon Musk party that he has officially launched. 2 years, Elon, his platform, his billions, that's doable. I am terrified of thinking anybody's going to buy into Elon Musk and trusting him with a party. But the point is, he's got to do it. He picked the right time to do it. And unfortunately, if President Trump, again, I've been in prayers for President Trump. Like, I feel like at this point, nothing, it's just God can get him. Like, nothing is going to matter. We can write to him. I have sent more than 87 emails since this fire until today. And I'm pretty sure one at least has been captured and looked at, but it's not being responded to. Nothing. As we know, transparency is being ignored. Citizens are, like, nothing can get through President Trump today. Why? Well, we just established the why. But I do pray that he comes to realize this isn't about making history, nor is it even about his legacy. He made a promise. He made a promise to put America first. And he can still do it. All he needs to do is go back to the good people that you talked about and say, guys, we need a new plan. It's not too late. It's been only, as you said, 6 months, 7 months. He still has time to revamp, come up with a brand new plan and do it right. But the question is, will he? I highly doubt he will, especially with all the praise he's getting from Middle East. All of it. I mean, again, the last time we had a terrorist organization removed from our foreign terrorist organization list was during Obama, lobbied by Hillary Clinton. Today, Marco Rubio signed that as of June 23rd, they just removed the terrorist group or Syrian chapter of Al-Qaeda that belongs to the new leader of Syria. We just removed them from terrorist list.
Mm-hmm. So certain Islamists get a pass. Mm-hmm. Certain illegals are going to get a pass. Oh, wait a minute. It happens to also be the illegals tied to big ag. And the hospitality sector. Does President Trump have any people around him that are tied to the hospitality sector? Does he have any big donors that are part of the casino world and big hotel world? I'm just asking questions.
He's a hotel owner himself, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's got a lot of friends that are. So certain Islamists get a pass. Certain illegal aliens get a pass in big ag and big hospitality. And then there's going to be tax breaks to a certain point, no tax on tips to a certain level. I think there's a cap on it for waiters and waitresses. Well, wait a minute. Why do they do that, right? I mean, I know some waiters and waitresses that make $400 or $500 a night, a night, in really nice restaurants. They enjoy the Florida sun by the pool during the day, and in Naples and a few other places like that, Miami, make big money at night waiting tables. Why do they get a tax break? Why do you not get one? Why do I not get one to that degree, right? I guess we all got a tax break in that they're not raising the taxes with this bill, so I appreciate that part of it. But why do certain people going to get the ability to make free money to a point? And then, of course, you have, again, the idea that certain people are going to get a cap on Social Security, but I think that's a cap. But then certain people that make too much, I don't know. The whole system to me just doesn't seem like it's what it should be across the board for all Americans. I want you to comment on that. We come back. We'll wrap up our conversation with Annie Cyrus of liveuptofreedom.com. Her website for her beautiful art is liveuptofreedom, LUTF, studio.com. LUTF, Live Up to Freedom is what it stands for, LUTFstudio.com. Annie, I want to talk about suicide bombers and 7/7 London and what Sarah Adams, former CIA analyst, and others are warning about before we wrap with you. But let's talk about what I asked about before the break. Why can't we have a system that treats all Americans the same? And why are we giving preferential treatment to certain illegals over others? Oh, amnesty for some, but not others. I mean, I don't want to give amnesty to any of them. All the illegals need to go. But we give, certain people get Social Security, we get a break, others won't. Certain people making money on tips will, but other hardworking Americans won't. I'm just tired of it. We all deserve a tax break. We all deserve to see major reform in our tax system. This cannot be going over well. When you start playing favorites, why does anyone think this is going to go over well? Who is the rocket scientist that came up with this idea of eeny, meeny, miny, mo?
I described that very topic on my latest Substack as, at some point, America decided to reward convenience. Even as a jihadi, if you somehow have some sort of benefit for America, you will be rewarded. Even as an illegal, even as a senior, at some point, my best guess is somewhere around after World War II, this started shaping itself. Was it because all the benefits and backlashes or mistakes made with who we allianced ourselves with during World War II or otherwise? I don't know. I really have never looked that deep into it. But after that, this scenario started in American policy. If you have any kind of benefit for not for America, for the politicians in America, then you will be rewarded. In any shape or form, no matter who you are, if you are a slightest threat towards the politician, you will be punished. And it just rotated itself to today. And I agree with what JJ said again. Some of the actions taken by Trump administration or himself directly, if this was Obama, if this was Biden, if this was Kamala, no way anybody would go quiet about it. It would absolutely be dissected, and everybody would directly go to Constitution to prove how unconstitutional that act is. But somehow, again, our guy is in the office, so we don't really zoom in too much. We just say something, move on to the next distraction. But the system, I'm tired of it too, actually. Here's the thing. This morning or yesterday, I reported that since the first strike from Israel on Iran until today, Brannon, Iran has deported over 450,000 Afghans from Iran. They weren't illegals. Some of them were in Iran for decades. They just wrapped up every Afghan and deported them from Iran. They said, we need to control the chaos inside the country. Even if you were here legally, get out. That is how they deal with chaos and issues. And compared to our problems here with illegals, that's nothing. Again, Afghans played no role in it. They just wanted to minimize the control. They just wanted to control their own people. Over here, as you said, well, if you're somewhat beneficial for what we're doing, you can stay, you can get all sort of benefits. If you're not, we're going to deport you. Again, I've been very level-headed during this whole time, always. But when they did the whole roundup of let's go pick up all Iranians who we think are threats to our country, they picked up an asylum seeker, a pastor, a Christian pastor in California, Brannon. For hours, we were juggling phone calls to get the best immigration lawyer. This man is not here illegally. He has all of his documentations. He has his, literally, Social Security, everything. They picked him up and said, he has some ties to the other place we raided. And I'm like, okay, wait. I thought we're going to do this clean. How are you accusing of a Christian pastor with proven record in California to have ties with IRGC? And then the other day, you see another illegal who has ties to cartel, gang member killing people in LA and get away.
And also, Annie, I don't show my computer, guys, because there's no reason to. But I did ask Grok a question. Because talk about people getting preferential treatment. And the average person watching tonight, if you don't wait tables, you're not going to get a tax, no tax on tips kind of thing. I asked Grok how many strip clubs there are in America. Grok says there are 4,038 strip clubs. 4,038 strip clubs. An estimated annual revenue, the industry generates an estimated annual revenue of $4.2 billion. $4.2 billion. Now, here's why I asked. You could do this with drug dealers or whatnot. But why, if the IRS and these groups want money, why do they not go after that $4.2 billion and the 4,038 strip clubs? Because those gals, are working for dollars, right? And I'm sure a lot of those men going there are not paying for their drinks and whatnot with their credit card, particularly the married ones. They're using cash. So the question is, how many billions of dollars of that 4.2 billion is never on the books by the strippers and by the club owners, because a lot of people are using cash, so there's no track record of where they went. But no, the IRS has got to give phony baloney fines and penalties to conservative Christian organizations and broadcast outlets like mine and go after other Americans. And we got to give a tax break to waiters and waitresses, but not to everybody else. But yet we have all these drug dealers, all of these prostitutes, all of these strippers, all of these strip club owners, all of these gangs that we could be taxing if we would just put in a consumption tax. And you don't tax cars, you don't tax clothes or food. No one, so the poor doesn't get hurt. No clothes or food. And no medical care. Clothes, food, medical care, tax, federal tax exempt. And you cannot have a bill. The bill has to be written so there's no federal income tax plus a sales tax. Otherwise, you're just going to have a value-added tax and be double taxed. So the bill has to be, well, you can't have one. You have to have one or the other. So you do away with the federal income tax as we know it. And everybody, other than food, clothes, and medical care, pays a federal tax. So every time the stripper goes to buy makeup, and some of them, they need a lot of makeup, or to get their Botox, or whatever else they do, or the
don't forget the hair extension,
the hair extensions and the nails, and the club owner goes to buy all of his booze. Everything they do, they're going to get federally taxed now as well. But right now, you got a $4.2 billion annual revenue that's basically a lot of it's cash. Let's see. I wonder why that is. I wonder why. I wonder if there's some politicians that have an affinity for that lifestyle. I'm just asking.
No. Remember, Epstein had no client list.
That's right.
Did he do nothing wrong?
Did he do nothing wrong?
Right? It's like, no, Brannon. We don't do that in our country. No, we don't even have trafficking issue in America. What are you talking about? We are the safest country for girls and women, and everything else is just propaganda. I heard someone today, Brannon, I actually heard someone today on their program, live on Rumble, say, since they're saying there was no client list now, I'm gonna believe the original statement that Epstein was a Israeli project, so our government is forced to cover up for it. Pam Bundy didn't do anything wrong. There's no uniparty. Cash Patel perfect. Dan Bongino perfect for the job. Since they're covering it up, we're just going to blame Israel for it now.
And where do you think these guys will end up when their terms are over? I can tell you, in my opinion, Fox CIA network. I mean, that's my opinion. Because who else would have them? I mean, do you think the conservative market's going to listen to these guys after this?
Oh, no. I on my show, I did say it. I literally named Dan Bongino for 6 years. Dan Bongino built half of his platform of podcasts screaming Epstein list needs to be released and Epstein clients and Americans deserve to know the truth. Epstein deserves justice. And he's the guy who sat there with a straight face saying none of that happened. How do you recover from that?
You go to, in my opinion, you go to Fox News where most of the viewers are not the brightest people, which is why they continue to watch Fox.
Or you can go work for Tucker Carlson. He did just do an amazing expose of telling Americans the truth by interviewing President of Iran.
And what do you make of that, by the way? I haven't seen the interview. What do you make of that?
This is a free country. Tucker Carlson can do whatever he wants with his money and his funding and his camera crew. But what I can say respectfully, he walked away from that interview looking as dumb as a bag of potatoes.
Well, a lot of us have known that about Tucker for a long time, though.
Well, yes, we did. But this one, he obviously, like even a 5-year-old is like, oh, you should have stayed away from this one. Like he asked questions. My favorite question was, is Iran's regime and the supreme leader open to American investment in Iran? They just put $2 million bounty on Trump's head. What are you talking about? And Pezeshkian, of course, absolutely. We accept American money in Iran. And Tucker's like, he's so proud of himself at that moment. It's like, I asked the hard question. I'm like, did anybody teach him about taqiyya? Like, somebody should call Tucker and say, have you heard of taqiyya? And every single president of Iran since 79 until today practices it whenever they get on air. It was ridiculous. The questions were absolutely, the fact that he said, I only ask questions on his promo video. He said, I want to be clear. I didn't ask any questions that was clearly he's going to lie about. I only asked questions that I knew we're going to get the truth.
Oh my. Oh my.
And then he asked that, did Iran ever try to assassinate Trump? You really thought that he was going to tell you the truth on that? Of course, Pezeshkian's like, oh, we love Trump. What? The whole thing was a disaster. It was absolute embarrassment, farther than he has ever embarrassed himself.
Indeed.
And someone like me, I was giggling, to be honest. I'm like, oh, did he just ask that? And then his reaction to the answers, I'm like, wow, he's so proud of himself. He has no idea what he's just done. So yes, a great waste of time, money. Now, is he going to get any reward and get any funding from Iran? Most likely, because he conducted that interview absolutely unbiased and trustworthy. Pezeshkian is talking, everybody quiet.
Okay, one final thing. Sarah Adams, I think her title is actually, what is her title here on X? CIA alum. Author of Benghazi, Know Thine Enemy. She says, there are a lot of subtle nods to the 7/7 London bombings and al-Qaeda's upcoming U.S. homeland plot, as they're paying tribute to its anniversary and other plots like Banjinka through their planning. Stay alert, especially on public transportation and in airport areas. If you see something, say something. If something feels off, don't brush it off aside. Trust your gut. Create distance and remove yourself from the situation. Vigilance saves lives. Open source says on this day 20 years ago, Al-Qaeda linked suicide bombers carried out the deadliest terrorist attack in British history, detonating 3 bombs on London subway trains, one on a double-decker bus in the morning hours. Over 50 people were killed and more than 700 injured. I think that talk about 7/7 is what it's talking about. Another, I think it's Sarah herself. I saw a clip the other day herself where Sarah is warning that a lot of our scanners do not pick up suicide vests. That a lot of our scanners at the airport do not pick up suicide vests. Are you aware of that?
I have heard that, yes. I don't have the expertise to confirm nor deny, but I have heard that not just from Sarah, but I have heard it from 2 other experts and one person who has worked, who's a retired TSA person, saying he can confirm not just suicide, but he has a list of things that are not being seen when scanned if proper clothing is covering it.
And
like basically what you're wearing covers it.
7/7 would obviously be July 7th. But I also saw something about September, concerns about upcoming September. But 7/7 would be today. So far, nothing's happened. We pray it doesn't. But she's warning about suicide vests. I saw her give an interview warning about suicide vests and suicide bombers in America and Al-Qaeda. In closing, what do you make of this intel?
Forgive me, as this is a bad time to be sarcastic, but I have no choice. Why do you think we just removed the Syrian Al-Qaeda chapter from our terrorist list? They need to be able to come in and blow themselves up. As long as they were on the terrorist list, they couldn't come in. And I'm serious.
So you're saying it's going to be like all the warning signs were there again, like 9/11, but nobody did anything. Is it going to be another false flag to steal more? So we can go to a biometric surveillance state?
I don't think it's going to be a false flag, but I do believe it is the mistake of, if we appease them, they won't attack us, but the number of fatwas out there are building up to where they're not going to quietly sit.
There won't be a false flag, but they're going to be allowed to do it by...
Yes.
Okay. LiveUpToFreedom.com, LiveUpToFreedom.substack.com, and LUTFstudio.com, which stands for Live Up to Freedom Studio, LUTFstudio.com. Annie, as always, thank you for being with us.
Of course. Thank you, Brannon. Stay safe.
You too. Annie can be heard every day right here on worldviewtube.com. We'll be right back. Hello, I'm Brannon Howse. I want to thank you for all your support at WVWFoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at WVWFoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
Introducing the Sentry Wellness System, the ultimate under-sink water treatment solution designed with you in mind. Say goodbye to harmful toxins and hello to water enriched with essential nutrients like calcium and magnesium. Enjoy the benefits of increased pH for on-demand alkalinity, all from a zero-waste system that fits seamlessly into your home. Installation is a breeze, taking just 15 minutes, so you can have clean, healthy, great-tasting water straight from your tap. Perfect for apartments, homes, rentals, and even RVs. Elevate your hydration and well-being with the Sentry Wellness System because you deserve the best in every drop.
Sentry H2O. Tap into wellness.
Joining me now is Jeff Childers. It's been a while since we've had him on. I don't know why. We should have been having him on more often, but every now and then an article comes across your desk or smartphone or computer, and you're like, whoa. And that was one of these articles. I read it, and then I realized who wrote it. Guy I've interviewed before, so I reached out to him. Thankfully, he was in my phone. And it's an article that all of you should be sharing all over the place because something is going on. Highly troubling insurance and Social Security statistics reveal 2025 spike in deaths is growing. That's what we titled it. We linked it over at worldviewreport.com. There it is. Now, if you go there, he starts out talking a little bit about President Trump and Governor DeSantis and how they're working together on some things. But then you get on down right here, he changes the topic. He says, I will depart from normal CNC practice and make a calculated leap of speculation with potentially vast implications. Let's get to what those vast implications are with our guest. He joins us now, Jeff Childers. Jeff, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Brannon. Great to be here.
Great to have you back. I read your article and I thought, wow, it's kind of hard to argue with the data. Tell our audience the two data points you're looking at and what they tell you.
Well, what we're seeing is a sort of confluence of a bunch of different data points that all point in the same direction. And what started the ball rolling last week was a really kind of major stock market development, although you have to be one of the financial types to have paid attention to it. But one of the largest health insurers in the country, called Centene Corporation, announced its second quarter results, but then immediately withdrew them and replaced it with a forecast of a $1.8 billion loss. And that caused the stock to drop almost in half by 40%. And then it triggered a cascade in the entire insurance market, that any of these insurers that cover government funded plans like the Obamacare plans or Medicare, Medicaid, that kind of thing. The analysts that generated the report that caused Centene to withdraw its guidance blamed this forecast of a $1.8 billion loss on two things. They blamed it on skyrocketing rates of sickness among their insured, and also on lots of people dropping off the insurance rolls. And so I think it's a reasonable inference, and they didn't say this, but it's reasonable to assume that people who are getting free or heavily subsidized care aren't just giving it up.
Right.
So those are probably people that died.
Probably people that died. All right. So you add this in with another data point, which is Social Security payments. Is there a decrease in Social Security payments?
So just recently in this last quarter, we saw something that has never happened before in history, which is a gigantic drop in Social Security payouts. And if you look at the graph, you can see, historically, you've just got this steady rise. And then starting this year, it just drops off a cliff. And originally, when I first saw it, I thought it might have had something to do with the Doge cuts and things like that. But This started before the Doge really began to kick in. And so what it looks like is that there really are less Social Security payouts. And again, probably because there are fewer recipients alive.
So these two data points tell you people are dying, and these are not small numbers, correct?
They're not small numbers, and they're happening fast. So think about that Centene report again. It happened so fast that their financial analysts didn't even know about it until they got this latest report. So just consider how quickly this is starting to come in.
Now, are these people that have been vaxxed twice or more than twice?
Well, so because Centene focuses on people who are in the government healthcare plans, you're looking at probably the most heavily mandated population in the country. So these are people who have had multiple shots and just constantly receive notices that if they, want to continue to get their care and benefits, they have to keep getting the shots. So yes, they've had a lot of them.
So why is it taking this long for them to die? Because most of them got it in 2021, 4 years ago?
Yeah, so this is not uncommon for long-term effects to start showing up. So if you look at the mortality graphs, and you could throw in another data point here, Brannon, which is excess deaths, which spiked during COVID, but then never came back down. And so that's one of the things that everybody has been looking at is, why haven't these excess deaths started to come down? But what we're seeing now is a sudden increase, and we're reaching the 4 to 5 year mark, which if you cast your mind all the way back to the beginning when people were talking about the fact that the shots hadn't been tested over the long term, that's the horizon that they typically look for in these sorts of what are called iatrogenic disasters.
So their immune system basically now, after 4 years and so many shots and boosters, is failing them and they're dropping dead.
So that would be the inference from all these data points coming together, right? Mm-hmm. Is that they've been getting sicker and sicker, but now we're starting to see the point, if that's what the data shows, that their bodies are just giving out.
And then you brought in toward the end of the article the Deagle report, something we've talked about here extensively, and people want to make it the stuff of conspiracy theories. And people say, oh, it's been debunked. That's garbage. It hasn't been debunked. We've done great research on it. Leo Holman, executive producer of our Worldview Report, has done a huge thing on this a couple years ago. This is clearly a real report tied back to the military-industrial complex, the government. It's not been debunked. It's a legitimate report they put out, I think 2014, making their prediction that 68.5% of Americans would be dead by 2025, 77% in the UK. So you brought the Deagle report up. What is your thoughts about the Deagle report?
Well, so I'm a lawyer and I don't usually believe anything unless I've done my own research. So I kept seeing people talking online about this Deagle report and, a community, I guess, developing around it. And I thought, okay, there's so many conflicting claims. Let me look into it. And what I found is that on the side that I guess that would argue against the Deagle report's use as a credible source, it's unsourced. So nobody knows for sure who drafted it. Having said that, it was published on a website that published that for years, maybe decades, published what's called open source information for military industrial use. So, they would publish reports of, I don't know, how many tanks the Russians have, or, how many troops are in Somalia, and just kind of stuff like that. And they had this running population forecast that I believe it was the 2010 version that predicted this, in 15 years, this sudden fall off in population. And then what happened was somebody found this report that was, on this open source website and started spreading it around. And and whoever was running the website pulled the plug. So they shut it down. Now, the whole thing is weird because, there's plenty of outfits that do open source intelligence, but they all say who they are and they have donation links and they have communities and discussion groups and things like that. There was none of that on this Deagle website. So I think it's a fair speculation, and many people have, I didn't come up with this, that it was really a military industrial site and an avenue for them to publish things that they wanted to get out without attribution. We don't know. So, that's the mystery, I guess, around this Deagle report. But all the other information that was routinely published on that website was credible open source intelligence. So what is this report?
What do you think it is?
Well, I'd be speculating again, and I try not to do that because I as a lawyer, I want to have evidence. But they knew something, right? They created this forecast, which was part of an ongoing series that they were releasing as part of their whole open source portfolio. And they did it for a reason. So I think it's fair to conclude that they had a reason for putting it in there. We don't know what the reason was. And I think where you're going is, are we looking at a calculated conspiracy that started, 2 decades ago that resulted in a manufactured pandemic over, a new type of flu that was released from a Chinese lab? I think that's fair to say that the evidence now weighs in favor of a lab leak. Was it deliberate or accidental? We will never know. We can't know. But if you combine that with the Deagle report and then the shots, it gets really weird. And when I talk to people about this, I like to bring up, I don't know, did you ever watch the BBC series Utopia from 2013?
No.
Okay, so you need to put that on your playlist next.
Okay.
If you're paying any attention at all when you watch the first couple episodes of the first series, the first year of the series, it will immediately make you start to wonder why nobody's been talking about that show for the last 5 years.
I'm going to put it in a search engine while you talk. Keep going.
So the BBC, but now there was an American remake in 2019, and it's trash compared to the original, and just makes things confusing. But this original series from 2013, and you can find it on YouTube playlists. It contemplates. It's a little group of what do they call it? Graphic novel fans who have this kind of samizdat comic called Utopia, and it has all these weird predictions in it, and they believe them. And it turns out, as you watch the show, and I'll spoil this a little bit.
That's fine.
That the British big pharma and the government came up with a virus called the Russian flu, right? Not the China flu, the Russian flu, and a vaccine that when you combine them together, it reduced human fertility by 60%.
And this BBC movie or whatever series came out what year?
2013.
Okay.
So 3 years after Deagle. And
okay, see, I thought Deagle came out 2014, but you're saying Deagle came out.
I have it in my head 2010. So if it was 2014, then it would be, even more consistent. But so one of the things that occurred to me watching the show, after you get over the initial shock that nobody's brought this up, because it describes the plan that is consistent with the pandemic. And I'm sure you guys have covered Event 201 and, and all that kind of stuff. So
and the CIA had someone there, it looks like.
Yeah. And so the show, it describes what we went through. If you're conspiracy minded, it describes it to a T. Right down to the names of things like this Russian flu. And so we've also seen, this worldwide cliff on fertility. And I just throw that in there because, again, it's consistent with this 2013 BBC TV show. Now, what does a show have to, this fictional series have to do with anything? Well, I think at minimum, it shows something was in the ether, right? So people were thinking about this to the point that this, and it's, by the way, it's an incredible show. I mean, it's a little profane for me, but the visuals are amazing. The dialogue is incredible, and it's just smart and really well thought out. And they finally get to a point in the show, again, spoilers for anybody who doesn't want to get spoiled, but they capture one of these elites, and he basically makes the argument that the Earth can't continue with the population levels that we have, and that their plan is to, massively reduce the population through attacking fertility. And they think that's humane because they're not killing people, they're just stopping future humans from being born. So anyway, when I think about Deagle, I can't help but think about utopia, and so right around that time frame, right, whether it's 2010 or 2014, that period of time, those writers must have started a year or two before the show aired. They found enough material to generate the idea for this show. And I would love to interview the writers and producers and find out, where'd you guys get those ideas?
Yeah, makes you wonder who was putting that out in predictive prophecy, right? Or predictive programming, however you want to put it, one way or the other, right? Well, let me ask you this in closing. Do you think we're headed for a huge continuation of deaths between now and the end of the year?
So I'm an optimist, and I've never bought into the doom narratives. And, I'm sure you remember there were people who were predicting, in 2 or 3 years, half of us would be dead, and that hasn't happened. So I'm hopeful that as people begin to pay more attention to this stuff, we'll figure out what's going on and reverse it. But having said that, if you look at my article, I lined up, all these data points, every single one of them is pointing in the wrong direction. And if anything, it's accelerating.
And by the way, you got some of this from people that are involved in the funeral business. Is that right?
Well, if you look at the funeral stocks for publicly traded death care companies, they're up incredible numbers since 2021. So we're talking like up 163% for one of them. Another one's 60-80%, and their stocks, are on a upward trajectory. The sky's the limit, and that raises its own questions. And if you look into their industry press, they're really quiet about it. They're not drawing attention, and you would think that would be one of the biggest things going. If you could make 163% return on a stock, you'd want to know about it. But they don't talk about the death care stocks much.
And there was another stock you were looking at. Is it Carriage? Carriage
Services, CSV, is another.
What do they do?
They make supplies for funerals. So coffins and transportation and, just all that kind of stuff.
So the death business is up.
It's not just up, it's one of the most highly profitable industries going right now.
People are dying to get in. It's really tough, but it's important information. Coffeeandcovid.com is the website to read it. Coffeeandcovid.com. Wow. Jeff, thank you for being with us, and thank you for writing this article. I hope people will go read it. Thank you for being with us tonight.
You bet. Good to be here.
Hope you come back again. Jeff Childers checking in. Go to his website, coffeeandcovid.com, and read the full article. We have it posted over at worldviewreport.com as well. Lots of good data points there to consider. All right, we're going to be right back after this break. And of course, if you appreciate what we're doing, we need your support now more than ever. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. We'll be right back. We live in uncertain times. In fact, we live at a time when our own governments all over the world are warning us that there could be big problems with our power grid. World War III seems to be right on the horizon. Let me ask you this. Do you have a satellite phone? Should communications go down with cell towers? Do you have a satellite phone to get a hold of that college student or your spouse who travels, whatever it might be, to get a hold of your senior adult parents? We have satellite phones at worldviewtalk.com, and you get the satellite phone for free when you sign up for their very reasonable payment programs for the service. Sign up for the service with a reasonable contract, get the satellite phone for free. Worldviewtalk.com. You'll also find they have, well, what I now have, which is a solar generator. Yeah, I have a gas generator, an LP propane generator, but what if that goes down? I want to back up to my backup. So I now have a solar generator as well. You'll find them at worldviewtalk.com. Check it out today, worldviewtalk.com.
Nature has a rhythm, a quiet strength, a way of restoring, protecting, and renewing us. Wellness isn't just about how you feel today. It's the quiet choices you make for tomorrow. At myvitamin.com/worldview, we've made daily self-care simple. Quality vitamins, daily supplements, and targeted nutrition. myvitamin.com/worldview makes it easy. Pure ingredients thoughtfully combined, tailored for your body. Formulated by a doctor who has over 25 years of medical practice experience and is a certified functional medicine provider. Visit myvitamin.com/worldview today and take the next step towards strength, balance, and resilience. Discover the wide range of med packs made for you and your loved ones. What you nurture today becomes the strength you walk in tomorrow.
All right, folks, please, before we go tonight, will you go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. We need to bring in this $50,000, put it back in the bank. So we need you to do business with these companies. They don't pay us unless you do business. Bella Grace doesn't give us money unless you buy from them. Gatatana, Numi. So a great way to support your health and us at the same time, Bella Grace, Swish for Life, that's the Gatatana. I mean, that's the glutathione and the Numi Swish. You do the Gatatana as well. There it is. You can buy a water purifier. You can go to worldviewtalk.com, get a solar generator. You can get a satellite phone. You can get a beanie to protect your head from the EMF. Whatever it is, go here and you can get meds like emergency medical kit with some antibiotics for emergencies on hand. You can join the vault, get access to 30 years worth of our stuff, 35 years worth of our stuff on demand. Whatever it is, go here now and do some shopping, folks. Get some great products you need anyway and help us. Another way, of course, is simply to go to worldviewfoundation.com, make a contribution of any amount, worldviewfoundation.com. We are not going to be able to hold a Worldview rally in Des Moines, Iowa. We were going to do that this fall, but the IRS stole our money, and therefore we don't have the budget. We were going to hold a Worldview Weekend rally in Northern Illinois, but the IRS stole our money that we were going to use in part for that. We were setting money aside for our taxes and to be able to do various ministry projects. That's not going to happen now. We've got to make this money up. And again, that's just the way it is when you have a rogue government that can make the rules up as they go. We have two people that are leaving the control room. One's already left, another's leaving. They will not be replaced by two people. Two people will not take their slots. Work will be divided among myself, Logan, and one of the other guys in the control room. So again, not only do we have to make up this money, but we also have to make up the money from the accountants and the attorneys that had to be involved in this, and my lost time to be involved in this, as well as put away money for any future taxes and any other theft of the IRS coming along. So we have to build up our war chest. So please consider going to worldviewtube.com/sponsors and worldviewfoundation.com and pray that we won't have to cut any, I don't want to do it, but we might have to actually go from offering up our show for 7 days on demand down to 2 or 3 days to cut our bandwidth bill. That would cut our bandwidth bill down big time, and we could save money doing that. We don't want to go those routes, but this is what we're in, and it's summertime, so giving and all that's down anyway. So please, if you can, if you can't, you can pray for us and promote us. But if you can do business at worldviewtube.com/sponsors, please do so. If you can make a contribution at worldviewfoundation.com, please do so. All right. Thank you so much for being with us tonight and all the great guests we had as well. And for all the kind notes, you can roll the music, all the kind notes from so many of you saying, you got to hurry back. I guess a lot of you missed our broadcast during those days we were off. And you were saying that you didn't know what to do with yourself. One lady said, I'm being forced to watch Fox News and it's torture. Can you please come back? Well, we don't want to see you do that. You might actually lose brain cells, in my opinion, watching the Fox network. So you don't want to do that. So we're back. Here we are, July 7th, 2025. Thanks for being here. And thanks for telling your family and friends about our broadcasts, all of them, at worldviewtube.com. Till next time, may God save America, at least what's left of it. Take care.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon Howse.
And welcome back here on July 7th, 2025. We're live. I know we've been doing a lot of best ofs. We're back. We're live. Here it is, 1:01 p.m. Central, 2:01 Eastern Standard. I was going to say we're back after taking off a week, but that did not happen. No, we weren't at the desk with breaking news, but we were at the desk working. I'm about to tell you a story, something that's been going on now for a while behind the scenes. And I don't generally bring too many of my personal stories to the desk. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes running this network that you guys never hear about because it just doesn't rise to the level of sharing with you. Everybody's got drama in their life. Everybody has drama if they're running an organization. If you're a business owner and you're listening today, you got all kinds of drama and things you deal with, right? So we're no different, and it just isn't important enough to bring to the attention of our listeners, our viewers, many of the things we deal with. I will simply say this. There are many days I think to myself, why am I still doing this? 56 years old. I've been doing this for 35 years, but I'm not about to let the turkeys get you down. I don't know. Isn't that some famous politician said that? Don't let the turkeys get you down. You got to keep going because otherwise you let them win. But I'm about to share with you a story today that has been something I've had to deal with accountants and CPAs and tax attorneys, and it involves the IRS. You're going to want to hear this story, folks. And we are about to release to you for you to share this as a press release far and wide. It is going to blow your mind. I was talking with someone today about it on the phone, and the longer I talked to them, the more angry they got. And they're not even us. They're like, I am so mad right now, they said. I'm like, yeah, well, imagine if you were in my shoes. So this is going to make you angry, and that's okay. There is a place for righteous indignation. The Bible says, thou shalt not steal. But I'm about to share with you how the IRS just stole $50,000 from us since we went off the air. The IRS just stole $50,000 from Worldview Tube. They just did. And I'm going to tell you the whole story, but lots of people need to hear this because this is not unique to us. Okay? I was talking to a very close confidant of President Trump about this over the 4th of July break. And they were bemoaning their own personal IRS story. Worse than mine. Very well-known Trump confidant. If I said their name, you'd know them. And they said to me, Brannon, what this tells me is the weaponization of the IRS continues even during the Trump administration. Folks, I want to tell you right now, don't get mad at the messenger. You better lower your expectations because at the end of 4 years, you're going to find out that the deep state largely won and we lost. That the deep state and Washington will go on as it always has. And that Donald Trump will be allowed to accomplish a few things, but not much. Not much at all. life will go on, and we will continue to be a nation in decline as we head toward third world status. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but that's the reality. But not only will we continue on to third world status as a nation, with the lack of work ethic among our own people, the lack of skilled workers and people that want to be diligent and work. We will continue with a huge chunk of the country on entitlement programs. We will continue with a huge chunk of people that milk the system for all it's worth. And the entrepreneurs and the capitalists and the Christians will continue to find themselves on the receiving end of persecution, and that will grow. We also are going to look back after the 4 years of Donald Trump's second term and realize, like we did after George W. Bush, that the surveillance state became bigger under President Trump. Leo Holman has a brand new article out over at leoholman.substack.com. I'm going to have him on Brannon Howse Live tonight. Trump's